Hello, wonderful have you here today. Thank you for joining us for another BBA Against Hate webinar session. Um, you know, when we started this, of course, it was during the time where we had this um, amazing devastation that happened within the City Hall, Los Angeles City Hall, and what was happening there as far as the disappointment from the leadership there. And we are working in partnership with our weekly newspaper and their Stop the Hate campaign. But we saw this more as an opportunity where how it affects within the business community as well, our business members and the kinds of things that they continue to go through. And we see that with the anti Semitic comments, with violence going in and attacking people through violence. And it just keeps going. And it seems like we're in just this amazing time where, especially because it's highly technical, where it's visual, we have a lot of video, a lot of ways to instantly communicate with people. We are just being inundated with this. So, this series is so important to all of us to be able to understand and come together. And we have a wonderful person here today who is going to speak to us about violence prevention and the things about how to prevent and um, fight against hate. Um, I will bring her in. This is Dr. Stephanie E. Myers, and I'm going to bring her in and then do a little bit of introduction for you. Hello, Dr. Myers. How are you?
Hello, Sarah. I'm just fine, and thank you so much for inviting me to be with you today.
It's a pleasure to have you as well. I'm going to do a little bit of introduction to let everybody know who we have here as our special guest. This is Stephanie E. Myers, PhD. She is a national co-chair of Black Women for Positive Change, the president of the Positive Change Foundation and vice president of R.J. Myers Publishing and Consulting Company, a minority-owned business headquartered in District Columbia. She is an author of a book called Invisible Queen: Mixed Ancestry Revealed, that tells the story of Queen Sophia Charlotte, the mixed race queen of Britain and Ireland from 1761 to 1818. Dr. Myers also writes and produces violence prevention films. She is the recipient of the 2022 Lifetime Achievement Award from the Top 100 Registry, the recipient of the 2020 Albert Nelson Marquis Lifetime Achievement Award, and the 2019 inductee of the Continental Who's Who Pinnacle Professional Member Award. It can go on and on about all the other different memberships and associations. She is also co founder and national chair of the Black Women for Positive Change. She works to change the culture of violence in America and the world. She is married to Roy J. Myers, who is a former Washington Post advertising executive, and he's also the president of R.J. Myers Publishing and Consulting Company. A proud stepmother of three adult children and grandmother of five, and great grandmother of three. Thank you and welcome, Dr. Myers. That was a mouthful, wasn't it?
Yes, well, thank you very much.
A very celebrated a lifetime of achievements and hard, passionate work, and we're so glad to have you here. I just want to get into more about your background a little bit as far as your authorship side and wanting to discuss about learning more about your book, The Invisible Queen. It again is the mixed ancestry revealed. What are the prime takeaways that you glean from Queen Charlotte's story?
Well, thank you very much for that question. And before I answer it, I just want to mention that I'm a Los Angeles native, and I remember when the Black Business Association was created, and Earl Skip Cooper and the leaders. So it's such an honor to be with you here today. So thank you so much. But Queen Charlotte was really a part of history that I knew nothing about and ran across accidentally on the internet one night where someone had posted up their Black Queen of England. And my reaction was, yeah, sure, If this was true, I would have known it by now. But as I began to research this woman, I discovered she was a phenomenal leader, Queen of England for 57 years, and she believed in fighting for what she believed in. And that's the takeaway from the research that I did and what's in this book. She was mixed race, and they knew it in the royal family, just like what Meghan goes through today. Little smart comments were being made by members of the court, and she was being discriminated against. But she was the queen, and she was an abolitionist during the time that the Atlantic slave trade was at its peak. Now here you have a mixed race woman in the royal palace as the queen. The Atlantic slave trade is taking place, and she was against it, and she made it known publicly that she was against the sugar trade, she was against the whole slave trade, and the Parliament passed the bill to end slavery in England in 1808 when she was still on the throne, and she celebrated that. So the message from Queen Charlotte is fight for what you believe in.
Fight, fight, fight. And I was mentioning to you before, this was during the 1800s, the early 1800s, late 1700s as well. Her particular reign was exactly, was it
1761 to
61?
1818.
Okay, I just didn't know. I was kind of thinking in my head, was that when she was born or was that her reign? But that is just phenomenal that even at that time, she had the fortitude to stand her ground and fight.
Absolutely. And during this time, during the whole Revolutionary War period was going on, and she was involved in making sure that the Black people who ran away from slavery to fight with the British against the American plantation owners, that they got up to Nova Scotia and Canada and were able to be free.
She assisted them when they got there.
Yes, they had a policy that any of the Black people who were enslaved and ran away and joined the British Army, that they could get transported up to Canada and be free as a reward for them having supported Britain against the colonies, because the colonies owned the plantations. So she was awesome, and we need more leaders like her today.
More and more leaders. Yes, indeed. So we have a wonderful treat in terms of, we have a great presentation that we're going to bring in here that Dr. Myers will go through, giving us insights into preventing violence in America and around the world as a measure of fighting against hate and racism. So I'm going to bring this in here now. And so you can tell me how you want to, you can take it away from here.
Sure. Like. Well, thank you, Sarah. And I'm just so proud that the Black Business Association is taking on this issue right away in terms of facing hate. What happened at LA City Hall with our Hispanic brethren coming down on making those horrible comments and then standing, it was just devastating to see that. So I'm really proud of the fact of what you're doing, because we have to work to change the culture of hate and violence in America. It's not going to go away, unfortunately. It's been here hundreds of years, and unless we focus on it, it's not going away. So let's go to the next chart. When you look at the Department of Justice statistics, it's really devastating, because you can see that racism and bias in America is one of the leading reasons why there have been violent incidents and hatred. In 2020, the latest statistics showed over 11,000 victims from anti-human kinds of behavior, racism and hate, and the mass shootings that we've seen. And many people like to blame the Black community for being the violent community. But of all the mass shootings at the schools and the nightclubs and all the places, the churches, it's 70% of it has not been done by Black people. It was done by Caucasian white people who have actually led the mass shootings. So we have to realize we are not the perpetrators here of this problem, and we have to focus on it and confront the people who are causing the problems. Next chart, please. I saw this chart here in the Department of Justice, and it just once again showed that 60% of the violence is a result of race and ethnicity violence. 60% of the violent acts that are hate crimes. Religion composed almost 13.5%, which is a lot. People who hate people because of their religious beliefs. This is something we have to address. And now we know that sexual orientation is becoming an increasing area that is also experiencing confrontational behavior. Next chart, please. So our organization, when we established, we started out as Black Women for Obama, and we appreciated electing President Obama and First Lady Michelle, and so proud of them for 8 years. And after he got reelected in 2012, we decided, well, what do we do now? Do we just leave our campaign, or do we do something else? So we decided to create Black Women for Positive Change. And we started out with the goal of pushing for a broader pathway to the middle class and to wealth for the Black community. That was our original goal. We wanted to work to let people know you can own your own business, like you, Sarah, and the Black Business Association. You can go to school, you can make money. And then Trayvon Martin got killed. And when Trayvon got killed, everyone, we all knew about the violence already, but there was something about that particular crisis of this young man going to get a soft drink from a convenience store, and this man confronting him right there where his father lived in the community and killing him. So we decided, we can't very well reach our young people if they're going to be killed in the streets, and we know what goes on with law enforcement, and we see these horrible crimes. So we decided to establish a day of nonviolence in 2012. And then after the day, it expanded to a week. And just here last month, we had the 11th annual month of nonviolence, families, voting rights, and opportunities. We started out talking about nonviolence, and then we decided families have got to be there because domestic violence is huge. And a lot of violence starts right at the kitchen table in people's homes. And then this year, voting rights is so critical. And 2024, so we put voting rights in there, and we've been very supportive of the election down in Georgia, trying to get people to turn out to vote. And then opportunities. And this is where the Black Business Association and people like you come in, because the young people told us, look, we don't want you to lecture us about violence. We want some dreams. We want opportunities. And we think that you're failing to give us dreams and opportunities. Okay, let's move on. So in year 2022, we had 19 events around the country. And these included workshops and webinars where people talked about domestic violence. They talked about gun safety. They talked about how you can de-escalate violence. We were in 17 U.S. states, including California, and in Los Angeles and South Central, Reverend JJ, who has a session with the South Los Angeles Ministerial Alliance. They had young men come together down in South Central LA and talk about violence prevention. How can you avoid getting in a gang? How can you handle things? So these were events that we had. And our organization, even though our name is Black Women for Positive Change, we have good brothers who are full members. Reverend Oliver Bowie out there in LA, he's one of our members, Reverend JJ, and we're so proud to partner with our men. We're intergenerational. We have a whole crew full of Gen Zs. We're multicultural. We have white folks in our group who introduce themselves as part of Black Women for Positive Change.
Okay.
And so we embrace Latinos, Asians. We have to come together. And we're interfaith, Christians, Muslims, and Jews, Hindu, Buddhists. We really believe in that. and we have a CEO Council for Business. And I hope we can talk more about members in the Black Business Association, because we have some wonderful business leaders. And this is really where it's at. We have to own our own destiny.
Yes, we do. We definitely do. And I definitely love collaboration and coming together to work together
Okay, next
with
chart,
that.
please. Now, when you talk about violence and hatred and racism, we have to look at what are the contributors? Why are people like this? And we have to sit down and research and find out what created this problem.
Mm,
Racism, we know, is at the very core of it. And we know that racism grew out of the entire slave system that went on. And it's very fascinating when you read about how the planter class, the big rich class here in America, first they had white slaves. They called them indentured, but they were white slaves brought out of prisons in England and Ireland and Scotland. And they brought them over here to work the tobacco fields and the sugar fields. And then they realized these people can't do it, but these black folks from Africa can. So they brought us in here. And then what they did is they told the white folks, you're better than these black folks. Racism was literally used as a dividing tool between,
mhm.
between the white slaves and the black slaves. White people have got to learn that this racism is just not what the melting pot of America was supposed to be.
Not at
We,
all.
we know that religious beliefs are a big problem, that people have a right to believe in what they believe in. I mean, I'm all for that. But at the same time, you don't kill someone because they disagree with you. Class envy and discrimination, a big problem. And now with the robots taking over so many jobs and the manufacturing plants closing down, I really worry about the working class and poor whites out in Appalachia and in
Mm,
all of these areas that had mines and all of that. They're losing everything because the robots are coming in. And then they look at the black middle class and say, you're taking it from me. No, that's not true. What's taking it from you are these billionaire corporate owners who aren't finding ways to include you in the change in the industry. So class envy and discrimination is something I'm very concerned about. Anger, low self-esteem, insecurity, that's a big problem. It's a big problem in our community. Our young men and our young women, they don't want to be dissed. They don't want to be disrespected. They don't want to be bullied. And I don't blame them. But we have
mhm.
to show them how to manage that anger other than picking up a gun and then spending the rest of your life in jail. And of course, poverty and lack of opportunity are huge contributors to racism, hate, and violence. Next chart, please. And please feel free to interrupt me if I'm going on too long. I
I,
need to be
I'm listening and taking all this in as well. But yes, great points. Go ahead.
okay. What can the Black business community do during this era of polarization? The polls that are studying the country tell us we're 50-50. We've got 50 on one side of the line and 50 on the other.
Yes,
And then we
indeed.
have some independents in the middle. What can
Mhm.
we do? So let's talk about that for a minute. Next slide, please.
This is the part I love. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, because we can't keep rehashing the problems. Our,
Exactly.
our organization, Black Women for Positive Change, and our good brothers, we believe that we have to create tools to reduce the racism and hate. And we know that it's possible because America has taken people from one status to another over and over. We went from slavery to being free. We went from segregation to integration. No, it's not
Hmm.
100% perfect, but it's a lot better than it was back in the
Hmm.
18 and 1700s. So we have to educate communities about history of the country. We have to educate conservative whites and tell them the truth about the fact that that great great grandparent that they thought came here voluntarily actually came in the hull of a ship, just like my great great grandparent, or back 6 or 7 generations. So we have
Hmm.
to educate people about history. The business community can play a big role in sponsoring books. Now they're trying to ban books out of the schools. Okay, then we need to create our own books. We need to create our own Saturday learning sessions. We have to get books to our own churches and to our kids. If the boards of education are going to ban Black history, which is outrageous, and ban the truth, we have to fulfill that goal. Producing films. You're in Los Angeles, my wonderful hometown, and we know that the media is powerful. And when you can get something in video, people love to see it. Goodness, the Black Panther and Wakanda Forever
Wakanda
breaking,
forever. Hmm.
yeah, breaking records,
Hmm.
$400 million already.
Hmm.
So we know people go. The Black business community can still sell its products, can still provide services and make profits. But I hope the community will think about producing films and books and using social media, underwriting workshops and webinars. These are things that we have to do to
Hmm.
attack racism and hate and violence. Next
I
chart.
will interject here because
Yes, please.
when I reviewed and I got to this portion of your presentation, I was like on fire because I just felt that we were just so in tune and on the same page. With for the Black Business Association, one of the primary things we want to do is to be about representation, about making sure that it's known about the contributions that Black business enterprise has done for America and the world. And not just Black enterprise, but also just the culture of Blackness and the innovations and the artistry, all of that we have contributed. It needs to be a continual stream of representation of what we're doing. And when you're talking about projects like film projects and books and also documenting the history, the BBA will be strong and on top of that. I
Excellent.
just want
Excellent.
I was just passionate about that. I wanted to kind of interject here too, real quick, because we have people chatting. One person's adding in about adding voter education too to the list. Um,
Absolutely,
mm,
absolutely. And at the beginning, I had voters' rights as one of our goals for this year. And we've been totally involved with voter education, turning out the vote. In Georgia, we've been on the phone banks and the text banks, and we work closely with an organization, the Transformative Justice Coalition. Barbara Arnwine, who is from Los Angeles also, she lived in LA and went to Scripps College. She's down there with a whole team of people doing voter development and getting people to the polls and buses and getting the elders to the polls. So, absolutely, voting rights is the nonviolent key to change. That is the weapon we can use. The
yes,
nonviolent weapon is voting. So, absolutely, and thank you for that comment. I agree with her 100%.
yes, indeed. Okay, so we'll get back to the presentation, but I just had to interject there because I was just so on fire about your points on that because they're just so appropriate for right now. Okay, so here we go. Back
Okay, we
to
can go to the next one now.
okay.
We have to promote religious harmony. And that's been one of the beautiful things about our group, Black Women for Positive Change. We have Rabbi Jeffrey Myers from the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, where the man came in there and shot up the whole congregation.
Mm,
Reverend William Lamar with Metropolitan AME Church here in DC, one of the oldest Black churches. We have Imam Talib Sharif, who's head of the nation's mosque. These are people that we're working with, our Christians, our Jews, our Muslims. So interfaith is strong. And I really encourage people all over the country to build coalitions and do it deliberately. Get together, have receptions, have conversations. It's wonderful. And that's a way we can begin to work together to pull down this racism and this hatred.
yes, I had the opportunity to be a part of a business roundtable at the request of Mayor-elect now Karen Bass when she was hosting Isabel Guzman, SBA administrator. And part of that was to be able to meet and greet other ethnic chambers and associations around. And I got to meet a wonderful gentleman who's over the Latino business chamber. And right away, in terms of collaborating and getting together, we were talking about that. So this is that prime example of us coming together to work together.
Wonderful. And Mayor Karen Bass is a wonderful bridge builder. She was very effective in the Congress during the time she served here, and she has been at every level of the community, from the tragedy of losing her daughter, as you know, in that car accident, to all of the things that she's done. So she's really going to be a wonderful mayor, and we're really excited and proud about that.
Us too. Okay, next one.
And you talked about this, Sarah, the need to promote and tell our story. We have people who have accomplished so many wonderful things in our community. And right there in Los Angeles, Congressman Gus Hawkins, is there a movie about him? Do our young people know who he was? Do they know about his contributions? Mayor Tom Bradley, who started off as a police officer, became the mayor, was a wonderful community man, a dear friend of my own father. Supervisor Yvonne Braithwaite Burke, who was also a member of Congress. She was a mentor to me when I was a young lady. She took me to Sacramento. I slept on her couch while she took me to the state legislature. We have people who have shown such leadership. Other people like Jan Perry, who was on the city council for 12 years, just ran for Congress. She didn't win that race, but she's an example of another leader. And so we have to promote the leaders that we have who've done things in business and in politics and in education, so our young people have role models that they can design their lives after. Mervyn Dymally, wonderful, wonderful leader. He created a nonprofit, the Urban Affairs Institute, and so many people, including me, went through there in high school and just had tremendous leadership. So, and these are just an example of a few names.
Yeah, we have so many more of these. Yeah, these examples need to be, let it be known that they were here, they are here, they made a significant stamp on our lives in the community, and more stories need to be told. So right.
And this is good for business. If business
Yes.
leaders are the ones who tell the story about these wonderful leaders, then the community will appreciate it and come and patronize the business. That's what we want to do, is build client loyalty, build customer loyalty, because there again, we want a pathway to wealth and prosperity. And so we have to find ways to market ourselves and at the same time work against hate and violence.
Yes,
okay,
indeed.
Next one. Now, there are some specific ideas about how to reduce violence in particular. There's this concept of de-escalation that we learned from our partner, the National Black Nurses Association. And you have a wonderful woman in Los Angeles, Dr. Betty Williams, who helped establish and begin the National Black Nurses Association many years ago, I think 40 years ago. But they taught us what de-escalation means. And what that is when you've got somebody who's angry and they're ready to shoot up the place, tone of voice and body language can sometimes bring them down. And we have to get sponsorship of people who can teach teachers, doctors, nurses, business leaders. I read that there's been hundreds of thousands of violent acts at the workplace. Well, if people are going to work and confronting violence, look at what happened in Walmart just 2 weeks ago in Virginia. A guy in Walmart shot up his colleagues. But if someone had been in the room and had been able to call out to him and calm him down, it might have worked. We have to learn de-escalation. With Black Women for Positive Change, we would love to see the business community, if it would, create peace benches and peace rooms, places where people can go and sit. If we could create peace benches around this country, put them in a park, put them at the corner, put them in the middle of a street, and young people and old people can go sit there. And then everyone would know when you see someone sitting there, they need some love. Go sit with them, put your arm around them, find out what's wrong. We need interventions like this. Were you saying something?
I just was saying to myself that is such a wonderful idea and thing that needs to happen. Just kind of really soaking that in. Great observation.
Well, that's something that's not happening, and we need self confidence training. We have these wonderful young people. I mean, our great grandson can work with his tablet, and he's 5 years old, and he knows
Mm-hmm.
exactly what he's doing. So we have
Yes.
to be sure that our children get enough self confidence training, that they
Mm-hmm.
know that they are the sons and daughters of kings and queens, and our history goes back to Africa and the South and all parts of America. We have wonderful history. And we need to encourage public private partnerships to address this issue of racism, hate, and violence. And we can do that. The government is always talking about public private partnerships. So we need Black business, white business, any kind of business to partner at a local level and provide the resources and the locations and the money and the books and the films to help change this culture. It has to happen one by one.
One by one.
Okay, next
Okay.
chart.
Next one.
We want to make America a real melting pot without hate and violence. And as I said earlier, a source addressing the sources of racism. We can promote love and understanding with our products and services and educating white people, Hispanics, Asians, everybody regarding the history of Black business in Los Angeles. When the Hispanics got upset down at City Hall, it really made me angry. It made me angry. I needed to be de escalated
All of us.
because my
Yeah.
father adopted a young man who came to America. They used to call our Hispanics wetbacks. He was just a young man, about 18 years old, came to my father's real estate business on Western and Exposition. And for the last 60 years, we've had a Hispanic family close to our family. Now we have two families. Their kids were raised. They call my mother grandmother. It's been a real family experience. And for the Latino people to even make a comment that the Black community has not been supportive of them is wrong. So we have to teach these people who are ignorant that we embraced our Latino brothers and sisters when they came to California, and
Mm-hmm.
and they lived in our communities, they went to our schools, and so that's just not true. That we've been negative, and they need to get over it.
Exactly.
Okay, and
Okay.
we're getting close to the end here. Um, we would like to reach out and encourage anyone who's interested to support the 12th annual. It'll be in 2023. We're going to be back out there with another month of nonviolence, families, voting rights, and opportunities. And it's a great time to network. We have a science committee that's led by one of the top Black women scientists in this country, Dr. Georgia Dunstan, who's a specialist in human genome science. We have people in education, the Black nurses I mentioned to you. We work with Moms Demand Action, just all kinds of people. Black business leaders, Stan Jackson, Dan Bythewood, whose brother is out in Los Angeles. So thank you very much for this opportunity to just share these thoughts. But we have to change the culture, people. No one else is going to do it. The gun manufacturers and the prison system are profiting off of violence, racism, and hate. They're making money on it, selling guns to our young people to shoot themselves. They're not going to stop. America is a capitalist country, and we have this belief that if you can make money at it, it's all right. So drugs, fentanyl, guns, all these things contribute to the violence and the hate. We have to turn it around, and we know we can do it. Like I said earlier, Black people went from slavery to being free. Women went from being in the kitchen to being CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
Gay people went from being in the closet, and now they're all over the place out in public. And the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, is an open gay. We know change happens in America like it does nowhere else in the world. Change is real. And so we have to grab this because the future of America, it's a fabulous country. I mean,
Yes.
America has so many unbelievably fantastic elements to it. That's what we want to build on. Get
Mm-hmm.
rid of the ugliness. And for the people who are hating, we need to get to their mental health and find out what's wrong with them and turn them around.
And I see here too that your organization emphasizes working with youth through your Gen Z connection program. Tell us what started this and your experience working with young people and how they see racism and combating discriminatory practices?
Well, it's been really great to work with the Gen Zs. It's a different generation, and you have to kind of get to know each other. But as we evolved, when we had some young members, they wanted to spin off their own network. And that's where the Gen Z connection came in. They have coffee clatches on Saturday mornings. We have to get them started again in the new year, but they'll get together for an hour and a half with a business leader, and they want to know, how did you start your business? How did you make it work? How rich are you? How can I do this? And so we
Mhm.
set up mentor sessions with our young people. We have one young lady who is at Harvard. She just started her second year. And so some of our members are sending her scholarship money to help her out. And we're very, very supportive and proud of our kids. And down in Georgia right now, there's a whole delegation of Gen Zs. They're not kids that belong to us. They're part of the Transformative Justice Coalition. But there are dozens of Gen Zs going door to door and taking elders to the polls, and they are fabulous. And if your audience goes on TikTok and they look up Black Women for Positive Change, you will see us dancing on the mall out here in Washington, D.C., with a bunch of Gen Zs to promote voting. And we wanted to promote voting. And
You
so
know, meet them where they are. Right?
absolutely. We got some kids from the Duke Ellington School of Music, and we had people ages 14 were the youngest, and Reverend Barbara Reynolds is 81 as the oldest, and everything in
Wow.
between. So that's on TikTok, Black Women for Positive Change.
So awesome. So awesome. We have some ladies watching today. Good morning, ladies. Great conversation. Also, someone was talking about Maggie Hathaway integrated golf here in Los Angeles, a co-founder of the Image Awards. And I guess that was back when we were talking about people that their story needs to be told.
Absolutely. And about the Image Awards, when I was in Los Angeles, I had a company called Contact California, and we did the PR for the first Image Awards with Willis Edwards and with the groups that put it on. I was right there. So I'm sure I met Maggie Hathaway. But yes, her story should definitely be told. That would be a
Yes,
wonderful
just
project.
another example of that. So yeah, I just kind of just looking through, and someone saying is please view MLK, How to Love Your Enemies. Wow. Okay.
Very good point.
I
Yes,
will
and just
check
let me
that out.
comment real quick that the author of Coretta Scott King's biography, Reverend Dr. Barbara Reynolds, she wrote that the biography that people can get. This person would love reading that. So yes, absolutely, and that's why we called it the month of nonviolence. That's where
Mm-hmm.
that term came from, Dr. MLK.
Mm-hmm. I happened to catch your when you were on with First Thing First with Dominique DePrima on KVLA 1580, and that was at the time when I think was it when Queen Elizabeth passed away. I think that was when
Yes.
it was during that time. And you had mentioned about inclusion and respect are going to be demanded. If you can recall that conversation, what did you mean by that?
Inclusion and respect. I think that in past years, Black people, people of color, women, we have tended to accept being left out. And those days are over. And the Gen Zs and the millennials, they want to be included in every possible way as full members at the table. That's one of their favorite phrases, a seat at the table. And so I think that we have to realize that they're not going to just play this namby-pamby, nicey-nicey game anymore. They want to be there and they want to be respected and included. And we have to be prepared to back them up.
For sure. And then part of that conversation too was the importance of symbolism because of all of the pomp and circumstance and everything that the monarchy goes through as it relates. So also a great segue back to on your book um, in terms of being able to order it. You can order Invisible Queen, Mixed Ancestry Revealed. right?
Yes, or just Invisible Queen is good enough. Yeah.
Okay, Invisible Queen at myerspublishing.com. And then also check out Black Women for Positive Change .org for their website. Um,
Absolutely. And if people click on media, they'll see a couple of films that we produced. One of them is called On Second Thought. It's about 22 minutes and it's free on YouTube. People can play this for kids at schools or at churches. And that film, and then we have a second one called Drop, A Story of Triumph. Both stories are about kids that get involved in violence and problems and make mistakes. And then we ask the question, what would happen if you had a second thought? And we take it back and show if they had acted differently, their lives would have turned out. And the young people really have responded well to these films. We've had over 20,000 hits at least. I think it may be more than that. So that's at Black Women for Positive Change. Click on media. And that can give your business leaders an example of how you can produce a film. It doesn't need to be more than 20 or 30 minutes long because the kids don't want to sit there that long. And you can get your message across.
I was going to see if I could pull that up real quick. It's going through. Let's see if I could pull that. I want to see if I could pull that up real quick.
For you, I'm impressed with your technology, Sarah. That's
you know, we have to do it. we have to make it happen. So here,
absolutely.
Okay.
And a shout out to Dominique DePrima. You mentioned her. She's great, and it's been a privilege to be on her show. And tomorrow, Carl Nelson, who's from Los Angeles, has a radio station also. And Barbara Arnwine will be talking from Georgia. It's 7 a.m. Eastern time, 4 a.m. your time. Nobody's going to be up. But it's WOL, owned by Kathy Hughes. WOL Radio will have a show on. Okay.
WOL.
WOL. Okay, you see where you got to media there. Okay. And then on second thought. Aren't you awesome?
I can make it happen.
You sure can. Wow.
I can make it happen. Okay. And just to your point, these types of production and content, they make the significant impact.
Hey, sir, how you doing? Doing fine. How are you?
Now, I helped write the script. We raised the money. We hired the crew. We hired the cast. We produced it. We did everything.
Wow.
And this story is about a love triangle. It's about a girl getting jealous of another girl and killing her. And so the movie starts at this place where she shot her.
Oh, wow. So, you can make a movie. You can make a short, or you can make something. It's just not, it doesn't have to be intimidating. But to be able to tell our stories, we just have to get in there and make it happen. You have a script writer for this, and did you build this like an internal team, or did you like outsource it mostly?
No, I was a script writer. I saw a news article in a newspaper in Boston about this love triangle and how this young lady killed her rival, and now she's in prison for the rest of her life. And so I thought, we've got to get the message out to kids. They have to have a second thought. Don't just let your emotions grab you. So I wrote the script, and other people contributed to the script, and we raised the money, and we found a wonderful producer, director, Shaka Balamani, who worked with us. And so this is the film that you're looking at here.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, you are in it, using the tools and the gifts that you have to make a difference. And I'm so on par with you in terms of telling the stories. We have people in here that says, I don't know what she's ready for, but she says, I'm ready. Wendy's a proud member of the organization.
She is your sister. That's right. Wendy's great.
For change, so.
She does such wonderful work with the young people in Los Angeles. I've been to her events and just so proud of her. I also want to mention Honorable Dawn Hester, who's the treasurer of the city of Norfolk, Virginia, is co-chair with me. We do it together. We work as a team. So it's not all about one person being in charge. And she's the treasurer of one of the major cities in this country, Black woman. So I just wanted to mention that as well. But hello, Wendy. Glad you're there.
Hello, all. This has just been such a delightful and enlightening conversation. I thank you so much for bringing your wisdom and experience to share with us today. Anything in particular in parting that you would like to say?
Well, I just want to say that I believe in us. I believe that we have a approach to life that is loving, caring, relational, that is forgiving and can build on strengths. And I think that we are the people to lead this country into the future, into the new world. We are Wakanda forever. And we just have to believe in ourselves and come together as teams and work with each other. So
Yes. I initially titled this as the role of Black women and making the difference or the change in the world. But of course, we're more inclusive than that. But women rock, Black women specifically rock. And so we don't want to shortchange ourselves because we have a lot that we can be that positive change and more so than anything, we're relied upon. And so I'm just so glad to be a Black woman,
absolutely.
and
But we
just
have to
proud of
work with
that.
our good brothers. We have
Yes,
to
we
work as a
do.
team, as a family. That's where the strength is. We have to
Mhm,
work with
mhm.
it, and I see it every day and every hour. Being married to my husband, we strengthen each other all the time. His where I fall short, he steps in, and it makes such a huge difference when we can work together.
For sure, for sure. One more comment. Let's see, got a couple more and then we can close it out. Ross Pennington, thank you. All well said. We now need a plan for continued action towards positive change. Ross Pennington,
Well,
that's
join
our
our group,
treasurer.
Roz. You can
That's our
join right on the website.
there we go. She's also the BBA's treasurer and my right arm on the board.
Wonderful, wonderful.
We have Hope Williams. Thanks for the information and encouragement. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. We are going to let our guests go, and they have a couple of parting comments. But we want to thank Dr. Stephanie Myers for joining us today. Please check out her book, Invisible Queen, at myerspublishing.com. And I'm sure that we will continue to stay in touch.
Right.
More work to be done,
Well,
right?
thank you, thank you, thank you for the invitation and for this opportunity to talk to leaders in Los Angeles. Yay, LA!
Yeah, like, thank you
Okay,
so much.
okay, bye bye.
Ooh, sorry, Merry Christmas. Okay, bye. All right. Thank you. Thank you. This was an awesome show. I thank everybody for their participation in the comments and chatting. And we are so honored to also have done this in participation with Our Weekly and their Stop the Hate campaign. That's Our Weekly newspaper, ourweekly.com. And we look forward to having it's monthly that we're doing our series, and upcoming will be in January. It will be Daryl Brown on January 19th, and then we have Hapen M, who's president of FACE, and she will be in February on the 16th, I believe. Please check out the bbala.org for more information and to stay in touch with us. Also consider to support and join the BBLA. Come be a part of our organization um, and become a member. We have a lot of work to do, both in terms of the fight against hate and racism, discrimination, but also to uplift and support and build our businesses so that we can continue to be the one of the leading driving factors and forces in America and around the world, because we have continued to show our innovation, our creativity, our power, our strength, our determination, And even though there are systematic things that continue to hammer us, we continue to fight on. And the BBA will be there. And one of the chief tools that we will do will always to be about representation, about continuing to keep it in the forefront about our contributions and about what we do and why we matter, why Black business matters, why we matter. So please stay in touch with us. Follow us online at Black Business Association on all social media. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us today.